Okay, so what we have here is we have all of our tools laid out that we need for tuck pointing and grinding. We've already done all of our pressure washing. The chimney's been pressure washed and cleaned and prepared for grinding and tuck pointing. So these are the tools that we need to have in order to do that task. So what we're going to start with is a large cord. This is the one cord we're going to run from our power source, which will either be our generator or off the home's power. We always want to bring our generator just in case we lose power for some reason, or we have a breaker blow and we don't have access to the inside breaker panel. We always have backup power for our generator, which we can choose to run or not. Or if it keeps breaking the breaker, popping the trip in the breaker, then we can switch to our generator. And always have the 5-gallon can with our generator as well as with our pressure washer. So what we're going to run from that generator or from our power source is our large 10-gauge cord. We're going to run that up to the chimney, and then we're going to run a splitter off of that. That way we can run our grinders, 2 to 3 grinders at a time, and we have a breaker on this 3-way. So what will happen is we can hopefully blow the breaker here before we do on the house, save us trips up and down. Also a secondary cord just in case this one fails, or if we need to get a longer length, another large cord. But once we're up there, we want to run up this single cord at the shortest distance possible with this breaker. The other thing we want to make sure we have, always while we're up there when we're grinding and tuck pointing, is just a bucket of water with a sponge. It's just good for cleanup. You never know what's going to happen up there. It's nice to be able to just wash your hands, clean water, wash what you're working on, whatever the case may be. We also want to make sure we have our hose. Now we still have our hose up on the roof from when we did our pressure washing and we cleaned the roof, so we just left that up there. That's a good location for that, but I just wanted to show it here as an example to show that we have it. As far as hand tools, what I'm going to do is I always have a hammer with me. We're going to use buckets to get all of our materials up onto the roof. It's safe, it's easy, they sit up on the roof and they hold all your materials. So we're going to have a hammer, I always have a trowel, margin trowel, joiner, tuck pointer, and a brush to work up there. That's the tools that you need. And then squeeze bags. These are the tools that you need to do your tuck pointing. They're just your simple hand tools. Trowels, joiners, things of that nature. Put those all in a bucket so they're together. The other thing is I always want to have acid handy if we make a mess on concrete, or when we go to clean at the very end when we're done doing all of our tuck pointing and grinding and after it's had a day to cure, we're going to acid wash. And with this acid wash, it's just a masonry cleaner and cleans mortar off of things, and so it's always handy to have. But I always want to keep that acid in a bucket in case that acid container fails and it doesn't leak. I always have a bucket as a secondary container to hold that. And I'm going to put my acid brush in there just so I have them together. We always want to have dust masks. The first thing we're going to do up there is we're going to be going up and grinding. There's a lot of dust. You don't want to end up with COPD in your life, so you want to wear a dust mask whenever you're doing any type of grinding, and safety glasses. So we have here our dust masks, plenty of them, and good safety glasses, one type or another. And that'll also go in with our hand tools when we take everything up. So we have all that stuff with us. Now the next thing, I always like to have a blower. What a blower does, we have lots of dust. I can blow the roof off, I can blow that dust, I can clean with this blower, and it's just handy to have. I like to have it on all our jobs at all times. It's a good tool for cleaning off roofs, blowing, making stuff look cleaner. It just works well. We always want to have that handy. The other thing I want to have is I want to have a drill and paddle and mortar. This is for when we're going to go ahead and mix our mortar, things of that nature. We'll be doing that down on the ground. We mix our mortar in a bucket, and then once the bucket's about halfway full, get 2 buckets at a time or so, and then we'll go ahead and we will take that mortar up onto the roof. So I always want to have that handy. So I'm going to leave this down here below though. I'm going to use this bucket now though, because I have my grinders. Now these are the tools that I use to grind out all the mortar joints. Now I want to have a few options. I want to have multiple grinders with different blades for different ways to use the tools. I don't want to be switching blades on and off, on and off. So what I want to have is a 4-inch grinder with an 1/8-inch small blade on it. So I have that. That's one of the grinders I want to have up there. This is good for the smaller blade, thinner blade. It's good for if I have any flashing issues, I need to cut flashing out of the way. If I need to make any cuts on the chimney that are kind of precise, this gives me a thin blade that I have a lot of control with. The primary tool I want to use for doing my grinding is my 7-inch grinder. It's got a 1/4-inch blade on it, and that cleans that joint out and grinds that joint out fast and efficiently. And it can also grind it deep, so we get good penetration into that mortar and a nice deep nice grind mark. So I'm going to put that in my bucket, take it on the roof. You know, sometimes you have to take the handle off and you can put your bucket and you have the handle handy. The other tools I want to have with me is two 4-inch grinders, and these both have 1/4-inch blades on them. Now these are light, easy to work with, they're easy to control, and having two of them in case one fails or two guys can work on grinding at a time. So I like to have those along too. I'm going to load those all into my bucket. We're taking up onto the roof. The last few things here is I always want to have a garbage bag. This is for our trash. When we're working up on the roof, we can throw any flashing that we cut off or anything we do or any large chunks of mortar that fall out. We have a garbage bag to throw that in, so we're not fighting garbage all the time. I'm going to throw that in with my other tools I'm going to pick up on the roof. The last couple things is plastic, cover all our concrete. Anywhere we can put down plastic, it makes it a lot easier to clean up at the end of the job. And then tar paper. I like to use tar paper around the chimney on the roof when we're working on flat roofs. It works well. And just so that when we're doing our tuck pointing, any mortar that falls, instead of falling on the roof and having to clean the roof really well at the end, we can go ahead and put tar paper down and make sure it's safe, but put it down, and that'll stop the roof from getting dirty. And the final piece is this piece here. This is a wedge that when you put it on a 412 pitch, it actually works well because you can set it on the roof and then put buckets and hold stuff on top of that. Makes it a little bit easier to work with. So that's all the parts that we need for doing grinding and tuck pointing. So we've just brought up the tools that are required for us to grind out these mortar joints that are failed. So what we're going to do is, what I prefer to use is, I prefer to use a 7-inch grinder for doing my horizontal joints and a 4-inch grinder for doing my vertical joints. The reason is that this 4-inch grinder, once it's going, has good balance. It's a little bit heavy, but it has good balance and it cuts nicely through the joints horizontally. I like to use my 4-inch grinder for my vertical joints because it's a little bit shorter of a blade, and when I do my plunge grinding, I can plunge and I can get a little bit deeper on this vertical joint than I can with the 7-inch grinder. So I will use the two together in kind of rhythm, and you'll kind of see the process for grinding out the chimney. So what I want to do is, what I'm looking for is I want to grind back these joints about an inch, inch and a half depth, and so that once I'm done grinding out, I'm going to rinse them out, and they'll be prepped for, when they're rinsed out the dust, they'll be prepped for me to be able to fill it back in with mortar. New mortar that's solid and strong, not stuff like this that's failing and old. So I'll kind of show you the process of that and get started. Now the main thing I've done is I've got my heavy gauge cord hooked to a splitter. I have power to both of them. Tools. So I can work back and forth with both tools off of this splitter and not have to be changing cords and changing like that. I'm already set up for that. Switching back and forth should be easy. I want to make sure I have my dust mask and my safety glasses, so that way I'm not breathing this dust and that I have my eyes protected. So you can see here, we've laid down tar paper around this chimney perimeter. We don't want to do too much coverage because we don't want it to be slippery or have stuff sliding down. So we have a small amount of coverage that's just safe for us to stand on and doesn't create a trip hazard. Like I said, everything's clear, easy for me to work, and I have a good space here. So anything that falls down is going to land on my tar paper and help me keep this area clean. So I'll kind of show you the process here now. So the first thing is I'm going to make sure I have safety glasses, get my dust mask on. And I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way to the top with my 7-inch grinder, and I'll show you how that looks. Okay, I started this grinding, but I've stopped just because I want to discuss something really quick. I want to leave this flashing in tonight, because what's going to happen is tomorrow I'm going to cut it out and replace it. So if there's rain tonight, in between me cutting it out and tomorrow, I can have water into the house. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these joints at and around this flashing. I can cut into it a little bit, doesn't hurt anything. But I'm going to cut into it, but so that it's still there and intact. So that tomorrow when I go to do the flashing, I can cut this metal out of the way, but in the meantime for tonight, it'll still be waterproof. So you'll see I'll cut along these joints, and I'll cut the top of them, but I will not cut into the flashing or cause this flashing to fail because I need it to last for one more night. So I'll continue where I left off, grinding around this area and working my way up the chimney. Okay, so now you can see we've ground out all these joints. It does make a lot of dust. There's not a lot we can do about that. But now you can kind of see it now that it's all been ground out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the blower. I'm going to blow all this off. I'm going to kind of blow the surrounding areas and try to get rid of some of this dust. And then once I'm done blowing it off and once I've kind of got this area cleaned up again, I'm going to come back and I'm going to take the hose. I'm going to rinse this all off, because what I want to do is all this dust, I want to rinse this dust off. All this dust inside these joints that's been ground, I need to take that hose and I need to rinse all that dust out of there so that when we put our mortar in there, there's not a bunch of dust. What it's going to do, it's going to grab onto that other, the mortar is in the cement is going to grab onto this brick, and it's going to get, the brick's going to absorb the water, which is going to entry out of the mortar, which is going to pull the cement out of the mortar, and that's how you get your bond into that joint. Now if I leave a bunch of dust in here, what's going to happen is that mortar and that cement is just going to bond to that dust, and it's just going to fall out. A lot of times you'll see guys will do work 5 years down the road, it's already falling out again because it never got a good hold in these areas where we ground out. So that's why after it's ground out, first we blow as much of the dust off as we can. First, that allows us to remove a majority of the dust so that when we do go to rinse it, it doesn't leave a bunch of dust down the roof. And then secondary, we're going to rinse all this dust off. We're going to rinse it down to the gutters. We'll clean the gutters at the end. We'll clean everything off the roof, and we'll have a nice clean joint for us to tuck point new mortar into. Okay, so as I was saying before, now what I've done is I've kind of cleaned up the ground a little bit, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this blower and I'm going to blow as much of this dust as I can off now. So now I've finished grinding out all my mortar joints. I've blown it all off and kind of prepped the roof for me to rinse this out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this hose and I want to rinse out all these mortar joints that I've ground out. And what my goal here is to get all the dust off of this and get all these joints clean so there's no dust in them. Like I said before, what I want to have here is I want to have a nice clean joint that I'm going to tuck point new mortar in. And the way that the bond works is for that needs to be clean so that as this brick absorbs that mortar's water and pulls that cement through that water into the brick, that's how we get our good bond. We can't get a good bond if there's a bunch of dust. That cement will just bond to that dust, and in 5 years all these joints will be falling out. But by taking the time to grind this out, grind it nice and deep, an inch, inch and a half deep, blow it out, and then to follow up by rinsing it all out, we give ourselves a chance for it to last for a long time. What we're going to do is we're going to allow that to dry for a little while, and now it's prepared for us to go ahead and do our tuck pointing. Okay, so I got Ray up there. He's finishing grinding out the chimney. The chimney's going to be all ground out and all rinsed out with the hose, and we'll have all the roof cleaned off and all the surrounding areas cleaned off, and that gets to the point that now, while that's grinding being finished, we can go ahead and mix our mortar. Now, this is the mortar that we're going to use to tuck point our chimney. Now our chimney has a little bit of a gold color to it, a little bit of a tan color to it. So what I'm going to do is, the original mortar had a little bit of tan. I'm going to add a little bit of tan to my mortar. So I have color here. It's tan 51127, and I'm just going to have a little cup. And what I want to do is I want to have my ratios be right every time. So I need to have an amount of color that I can mix with either a full bag of mortar per color, or what in this case I'm going to do a small tin can about 1 inch tall with a half bag of mortar, and that's giving me my ratio. And the way that I like to do this is I'll show you. What I want to do is I first want to start getting my color. I want to fill that color to the top of the can. take it until it's nice and full. I'm going to dump that color into my bucket. Now I'm going to make a full bag of mortar for this chimney tuck pointing. So I need half bag of mortar in one bucket and the other half of mortar in the other bucket. So I'm going to put 1 cup of color in each bucket. Now I have another full one. This is going to go in the other bucket. So I have 2 empty buckets that are clean. I'm done with my color for now, so I'm going to go and put that away. This color is very messy, so you want to use it and then get it put away immediately. The other thing is you can't get it wet because it's in a paper box and a paper bag. As soon as this gets wet, it's a big problem, so we always want to keep this dry. It's very difficult to get off the clothes and concrete and anything else. Now, for me to get my color right and evenly mixed, what I want to do is I want to take my hose, and now I have color in there. I want to take my hose and I want to use my hose to mix that color into the water. So now that I'm going to spray this in here, so what I've done is I put color and the water in the bucket now. And as you can see, the color now is mixed into the water thoroughly. Now, as I add the mortar to this water, the water is going to evenly mix in with the concrete, which will give me even color. That way I don't get streaking and things like that. So now the next step is how am I going to get this bag into half bag each side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this bag in half. Trowel, right down the middle. I'm going to use that trowel to kind of cut the mortar inside the bag clear. I'm going to lift up, scan this bag of mortar on edge. That'll give me 2 half bags, even sized bags of mortar for our tuck pointing. And this is a Type S mortar. It's a structural mortar designed for structural masonry, high cement content. Now I'm going to gently dump this in here without making a big mess. Save a little bit out, just in case I get it too wet. I have a little fallback protection. We'll add that last little bit evenly and slowly. The other thing is if I dump it all at once, it makes it very difficult to get our mixer to mix. So the same thing with this, I'm going to leave a little bit of mortar left over. Add a little more water to this. A little more water here. When I'm doing squeeze bagging and tuck pointing, I like to use a drill and paddle, because I know I can get all of the little lumps out of the mortar with a drill and paddle. Shovel and wheelbarrow or mixer doesn't mix it quite as evenly, and it doesn't quite get all of the little lumps out. When you're using a squeeze bag or tuck pointing, you want the mortar to be very even and consistent. Okay, we've got all of our mortar mixed, and as you can see, use a little bit of color to match the chimney. And I'll mix those 2 buckets, and then I'll get those up on the roof and we'll start squeeze bagging and tuck pointing. Okay, so now we've got the entire chimney ground out. Now it's been ground out, we went through and we rinsed out all the joints, so now it's nice and clean. We've rinsed off all the roof's all clean. And the last thing we're going to do right before we start to do our tuck pointing is we're going to take our blower and we're going to blow the water out of these joints. What that'll do is it'll give a nice even surface for moisture. And we won't have pockets of water in all those joints where it can be sitting in there. So that when we grout, that water will be even, and so that way our mortar will dry evenly. If we don't blow this water out, we'll have pockets of water in there. When we go to joint, we'll have soft spots in our mortar and hard spots in our mortar. So right now, like I'm going to show you, I'm just going to blow all the water out. Okay, so this is what we call tuck pointing the chimney. Like I said before, the chimney's ground out. It's been rinsed out and dried. Now we're ready to fill all these mortar joints that we ground out. All these joints can be filled back in with good mortar. And so what we're going to use is what they call a cake bag or grout bag. And Works very similar to a cake bag. We're just going to take mortar that's been mixed to the right consistency. We're going to fill it up. I usually like to put 2 trowelfuls in. I'm going to shake it down to compress it so that gets all the air bubbles out. And then I'm going to close it up and I'm going to work it just the same way you would work a cake bag. Now, I'm going to start here in the middle of the chimney. Notice I've already cleaned the roof from doing all of the grinding and from rinsing it. The roof's all clean. I've put tar paper back down again. Got it tucked up in there tight. And I'm going to go ahead and start squeeze bagging this, which is also called tuck pointing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get that mortar, and what my goal is to get that mortar full, so there's no voids in those joints, nice and full, and then bring the mortar out flush to the face of the brick. And it's not going to look perfect now, but we will be cleaning it up later when we do our joining. Well, I'll show you kind of how this looks. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll fill that up, and what we're going to do is we're going to fill that. I'll fill my bag up again. I'll fill this whole entire chimney when it's all done. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait, let it sit for a while. I'm going to wait till it gets a little bit firm to the touch. When it gets a little bit firm to the touch, that lets me know that I'm ready to start doing our joining and our finish work, which gives it that nice rounded looking joint that you see on a lot of brickwork. Anyway, so for now, we'll continue to grout, and then as soon as we're done and we start to get a little bit of this firms up a little bit, we'll go ahead and we'll start doing our joining. But for now, we're just going to continue to grout this. Okay, in colder conditions, sometimes what we need to do is after we've done our tuck pointing, our squeeze bagging, we go ahead and bring a torch, and what that torch will do is our mortar's still a little bit wet. If I go ahead and strike right now, it's going to make a big mess, it's going to be a big problem. So what I can do is I can take a torch and propane bottle, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to evenly heat this side up and dry out the mortar a little bit so that when I go to squeeze, when I go to join it, it doesn't make a big mess, and it's a lot cleaner, a lot easier to work with. Okay, so I've torched the chimney, got the mortar a little bit stiffer so that it is a little bit stiff to the touch. And now what I'm going to do is it's called joining. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this round jointer, it's got a round barrel. I'm going to force that jointer into that mortar joint. And once that does, it's going to compress that mortar. So if there's any voids or if the mortar's not tight in there, this will compress that mortar into that joint and make sure we got a nice full joint. And it allows it to cure hard, and it also leaves a little bit of a smooth surface, which holds up well over time. So I'll kind of show you that process. First, I'm going to go through, I'm going to do all my vertical joints. Make sure the joints are nice and full from edge to edge to the brick on all the edges of the brick. I've got all my vertical joints. I can kind of come through here, clean my joiner off. Now I can hit the horizontal joints. One thing I want to do is, as I'm joining this, I want to make sure I don't have any holes anywhere. There's no holes in my work. And I'm going to work from the corners in. I'm going to force mud into that corner like that. Force mud into these corners. Give you a nice tight corner on your mortar. Nice and full under corners. See, I'm pulling that mortar into that joint. Pull that mortar into that joint. And I can joint that horizontal. So I'll just continue to do this until the entire chimney's jointed. Okay, we're just doing our last little bit of joining. As you can see, I kind of got this all round jointed and everything's compressed nice and tight. And this is the last part of our grinding and tuck pointing. And tomorrow we'll be back in the morning and we'll start the crown and the flashing.